Game of Thrones' sweetest love story might be one you haven't heard before, and that's of course the story of Jenny of Oldstones and Duncan Targaryen. And since it's Valentine's Day, let's talk about it. Let's talk about something light, because Valentine's Day is also my birthday, and I like to talk about light things on my birthday, okay? Now, Prince Duncan Targaryen was the Prince of Dragonstone. He was the heir to the Iron Throne under his father, Aegon V. Aegon V was one of the chill Targaryen kings. We generally stan him. But Duncan was a romantic, and so as he's traveling through the Riverlands, he meets a wild young peasant girl named Jenny of Oldstones. Now, she calls herself Jenny of Oldstones because Oldstones is like a castle in the Riverlands, though castle is a strong word, I would say. It's a bit more of a ruin. It's said that the old first men kings of the Riverland used to rule from there, like the Mud Kings, literally like Mudd, that was the last name. And Jenny claims that she is a descendant of them, and so she lives in Oldstones in this ruin. And so this has led to a lot of people describing her as kind of crazy, though again it's hard to tell, like, you know, what's the exaggeration, what's the hyperbole of the time, because, like, okay, is she just like a wild quirky young woman, or is she like a cuckoo person living in a ruin? I don't know, jury's out. But whatever the case may be, Duncan Targaryen and Jenny of Oldstones meet and fireworks go off. They are smitten right away, and Duncan decides that he wants to marry her, and he's gonna do it now. The only problem is Duncan is technically betrothed already, because Aegon V, even though he had gotten to marry for love, because Aegon V had married, when he was 20, Betha Blackwood, and the Blackwoods are, you know, like kind of a smaller house in general, so it's, I don't know, it's kind of weird. You get to do what you want, Aegon, but Duncan doesn't. To be fair, Aegon, no one thought he was going to be king, so like the fourth son of a prince marrying whoever he wanted wasn't the craziest thing in the world. But, you know, once we get to Duncan, like, he's very much the heir to the throne, and so Aegon V decides that he thinks that Targaryen incest isn't great. You know, he's not married to a sibling, so why should any of his children be? And so he tries to, like, have marriages arranged that would be good for the realm. So all of his kids get betrothed, and then very quickly, most of them break their betrothals. So Duncan was supposed to marry the daughter of Lionel Baratheon, who was the Lord Baratheon, also known as the Laughing Storm. The guy is intense. But he's supposed to marry her, and then, you know, he doesn't, and he marries Jenny instead, and it causes a whole fucking commotion, because here is the heir to the Iron Throne marrying, like, a complete commoner. That is not done under any circumstances. And even Aegon V, who is known for his love of the common people, for treating them really well, you know, comparatively to all the other lords, he is dead set against this, because he's like, hey, I'm chill. I'm the cool dad. I get it. But, like, there's only so far that we can push these people, these, like, you know, yuckity yucks up here. So Aegon does everything he can to get Duncan to basically set Jenny aside and be like, hey, you can't be with her. I get it. I'm so sorry, but, like, this is a step too far. We can't justify this. But Duncan will not listen. He's like, no, Jenny's the one. I married her. I'm not setting her aside. This is my lady. I love her. Daddy, I love her. That was a stupid joke. So everyone tries to convince Duncan. Aegon gets the Grand Maester, gets the High Septon, gets the entire small council all to go to Duncan and be like, Kay, we're serious. You need to set her aside. Either you are going to set her aside, or you are giving up your place. You are not going to be the Prince of Dragonstone. You're not going to get the Iron Throne. Are you willing to do that over like a woman you met in the Riverlands? And Duncan's like, yeah, I am. So I'm not going to be the Prince of Dragonstone anymore, okay? And so Duncan does it. He fully gives up his rights as a Targaryen prince and abdicates his role as the Prince of Dragonstone up to his brother Jaehaerys, who would eventually become Jaehaerys II. And it's crazy, and like not like in a bad way, but it's like, wow, this is like unprecedented in the Targaryen dynasty, that someone just gives up their role, gives up their position for love. Also, after abdicating his position, Prince Duncan Targaryen, instead of being known as the Prince of Dragonstone, became known as the Prince of Dragonflies. I think like as a sweet reference to the Riverlands, and just, you know, they're like love. I don't know. It's just sweet. And so after giving up his position, eventually Duncan and Jenny would go to court, and Jenny would be accepted there, where she would, as a matter of courtesy, be known as Lady Jenny. Which Lady Jenny is just like adorable. And eventually she is accepted at court. You know, obviously, like, the situation wasn't ideal, but now that there isn't a kind of succession crisis due to the fact that a commoner would have been Queen of Westeros, the royals seemingly didn't care as much after that point. And so the half-mad peasant woman, who some of the small folk even called a witch, suddenly gets like a makeover in the eyes of the small folk. They all now like love her. They love the story of her and Duncan, and how this woman who is, you know, like them, ascended to this like kind of high position, all because of like love and its power. In the world of Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones, etc., there are a ton of like songs and stories about Jenny of Oldstone specifically. We hear a version of it in the TV show, which I think Podrick sings in, I want to say, the last season. It's a pretty sweet moment. He has a lovely voice, and the song is very sad. Now, the contents of the song are a little up for debate, because it is kind of a sad song about Jenny basically like dancing with her ghosts in her grief. And it's a little confusing as to what it is referencing, because there are two possibilities. One, which is like, okay, cool, and then one that's, very sad. So the first one is, remember I said earlier that Jenny lived in the ruins of Oldstone, a castle that is a ruin and like haunted by ghosts. And so the idea is that, like, you know, she hung out with her ghosts there, and so the song, that's what it's referencing. But then there's the darker option, because something that we need to remember is that Aegon V, the king who was the father of Duncan, father-in-law of Jenny, he was the subject of the tragedy at Summerhall. Summerhall was a Targaryen residence palace in the Dornish marshes, I think. It's like near Dorne and the Stormlands. It's like somewhere down in that area. But Summerhall is a very mysterious event that we don't really know what happened, but from what we do know, Aegon V was trying to like bring dragons back into the world, and gathered his entire family to watch him do it, and then something went wrong. Something went wrong, and Summerhall basically went up in flames, and, you know, most of the Targaryen royal family, possibly including Duncan over here. We don't know if Jenny survived or not, but one of the interpretations of the song is that she does survive, and her dancing with her ghosts is her dancing with her lost love. And boy, if that's not tragic and sweet and romantic, and I want to cry. But I've always loved Valentine's Day. I love like the sweet romantic stuff, and it being my birthday, you know, it's just a vibe. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about these two in the comments. I will see you later. Okay, bye.